draw him all that. So I suppose they are the ones that established this likelihood, lad thing. I don't know when the actual name popped up.
67.
Was it around the Philpott area? Was he filming Ivan at that, or just after that?
No, that was the day you won the national.
That was the year he was doing it, was it?
Yeah.
Ah, I didn't realise
He
it
was
was
down
that.
Salford somewhere.
Nice guy, wasn't he? A bit crazy, but a nice guy.
I don't remember. I was 15.
Philpott Files. He'd done a few on other things.
He did 3 anglers. He did Barry Rickards, who was pipe fishing, Dick Walker, and Ivan fishing the national the day you won.
Oh la la.
First cast, Ivan up a tree in a big overhanging, one of them really big willows, straight up the
Sweeping.
tree.
How's he above him?
Above him, straight above him.
How's he missed that? Oh, how wide is it where he's fishing?
5 yards.
No need to speak to anyone. The only call out.
4 yards. You know when you
Did he end up fishing like this? Did he end up casting like that? Or did he got the gap? That is...
It might have been the wind blew or something.
Could it? Yeah, freak bit.
You got a big bit like that and it just goes 3 yards, a yard sideways. But you think it's alright and it just
Is
goes
it done
that.
that float the lot?
I can't remember. But he was up the tree. He probably lost his hook because he'd been on a pound bottom, wouldn't he?
1-1 then. That nice bay that was. That was the most supple 1-1 we had for ages.
Yeah, and then when he was tackling up, he did a load.
How many rods had he got set up?
Because that was the first time you could have more than one, wasn't it?
About then, yeah.
Yeah, that was. They changed all the rules for that year. So you had catapults, more than one rod set up,
points,
swim feeders, bait droppers.
Biting, yeah. It opened the door because when you think of that, Mark,
it was a real revolution that day.
Well, I think that's
that year.
That 60s were taking, match angling were kicking in, but the amount of different changes to tackle, I'm not saying they're all new, but they certainly haven't been around for a long time. The adaptation of getting the equipment right to deal with these different rivers, it was a revolution, 60s really. And suppose there were a lot of changes in it.
Yeah, that's what I've picked out in the book, you see. The changes of the rods, the reels, the Mitchell match. Oh. There was the automatic around, that would have been around.
And then the standard one, though.
There was the standard 300. The automatic was the 330. The 410 was a faster 300.
That's right, chunkier one, wasn't it?
And then there was a 440 that didn't seem to be imported here, which was like a match. But it didn't have match on it, and it had the torpedo handle, not the little curved handle, that great big lump of a T-boat.
T-boat, yeah, everyone.
And they put that on the 440, but it didn't. No one's. And then what happened is Barry Wellham, Milbro were importing all the Mitchell reels, not Garcia. And then Barry Wellham set up the Garcia agency in Southampton. And he obviously cottoned onto it. And people like Ivan's to do with this is to do with Ivan. They probably said, well, yeah, we want the other handle where you can switch the handles just like that as a doddle. And he said, right, we're going to badge it the match. And then Ivan said, change the spool so it didn't have the...
tough top lip.
The
shallower spool for one.
Shallower. And it didn't have the pointy little button that line went round, and it didn't have the feet of the button were just inset a bit better so the line couldn't get round.
At the bottom.
Changes, yeah, as it came round the line.
Yeah, because you did it, like when you said with them different models, the line capacity and also the top of the spool, so how that was shaped to give you the freedom of the line. So Ivan spoke a lot with Barry and that, because he must have got me the day out with Barry.
He could see, hang on a minute, we got here, top match angler in England, knows his stuff, let's talk to him, it's going to work both ways here, I'll give him some reels.
Bless him.
And
you see, that's what didn't happen, Mark. When you talk about that one instance there, they were happening on such a regular basis. And with the other people coming in, then there were some very clever things come to Ivan's table. Ivan didn't want a shot. Company should have had him straight away. Didn't want him being a counterman, doing all of that thing. No, want him fishing 3 times a week. Throw all that laboratory bloke Ivan gets on well with. A week time we'll have a product. It happened every week. So that I'll talk about that later. But what I'm trying to get over, them nights down the Shakespeare Street, as the Monday would go like that. So that would be quite a full Monday. By the time we finished work, and Ivan would have worked, we're down the river at 5, and during that fishing, meeting the friends, they'd talk on the bank for half an hour, possibly about a weekend. And then we'd always have an hour back at Shakespeare Street, which is only around the corner from the Straits, doing these maggots and looking at these baits which are prepped for the weekend. Tuesday had come, and there'd be either one of the likely lads to come by again. These would be the Dave and Brian, because they could go up Wednesday fishing if they want. Dave used to do a bit in the morning, go straight up the Welland, listen to Ivan or the Neen, and fish for 4 hours with one method. Then if there's 3 of them going, we won't put them at the same places. Go the 100, 200 to 300.
So
now these
Dave
people,
Rossi do that. Yeah.
I forget, and they all had a very, very good travelling companion friend with them. And know some of the names. If we get them names in, they'll one in these books, Mark. They would come in during that week and talk to Ivan alone, because there'd be communal talk, jovial talk, and then after they've been fishing the Saturday and the Sunday, most probably Sunday the same match together, Saturday sometimes different with what's on. Monday night, from June right through till we can't see you float, there'd be someone Monday night emptying the weekend. Then Dave Rossi would come in, and when you've experienced Dave's house, you've not really experienced Ivan's in the day, but you get a picture of what's going on there. So Dave would come down there smelling of aftershave, cashmere jumper, nice his trousers and everything, but he didn't get uncomfortable when he come down there talking. He'd come and see Minna, and she was like a Romanian. She wouldn't have looked out of place in the nicest caravan in Romany Travellers. She lived downstairs in a double bed, and we all kept walking by and by.
This Ivan's mum?
Julia, Minna. She'd keep a bit of the information, look round, and she's sitting here with double beds here, tellies there, bits of floats, trophies, and we'd all walk front to back. They'd always make sure, sometimes we'd only use the back door and go in, and they'd always come and say to Minna, Brian Embers and the 2 Daves, when they were fishing with a waggler or a zoomer or a swingter, or keep to the floats, they'd have to be a bit heavier. They wouldn't catch the 2, 3, 4, 6 ounce fish. They'd start there and go up. And they're Dave Downs and Dave Rossi. Dave's arms are like legs. And Dave could put one on that bungalow there. There'd be no problem. He'd let 4 or 5 go like that. We had a problem. But Dave had always been a manual worker. Very strong.
He's not very big, is he? I know he's shrunk a bit.
He has shrunk a bit.
He has shrunk a bit.
Yeah, he has all together shrunk in a bit. And also his personality's come in a little bit, not too much.
He's mostly behaved. He
was
telling me, he chatted up Val one day, I was out. He chatted up Val for half an hour.
He can't stop himself.
And Val was loving it. She just thinks it's a laugh, you see. And he
That's
said,
what you always used to have to do.
You're too good for him, you know. She said, you're too good for Mark.
He can transfix a woman. I've seen it.
Val loves it. She don't care.
He was
a good laugh.
When you think about them 60s and 70s, they had everything round me. His wife, Magdalene, was a bit chauvinistic, man. And he had a bungalow on Lutterworth Road, painted it pink, soft pink, immaculate, built it himself on one of the nicest roads going up that way of Leicester. And he lived on Knighton Fields, and like I say, my mum grew up with his sister. But in his family, his dad was a Traz Tyler, you know, the real small.
Yeah.
He was perhaps do some of the top jobs in Leicester.
She obviously worked hard, and Dave worked hard.
Dave
You don't get what they got with that graft, and it.
And Dave I think in his chemistry business and everything, he had a bit of a bad time at one place. What was it? Downs, his partner. They had racehorses as well, Mark.
I spoke to him last week about it.
Had racehorses,
He said
Broom Secret, and his friend in wheelchair, I think.
He said he had, in this country, they had flat racers and steeplechasers. Yeah, both. And he said he had over 20 winners. And he did it for about 9 or 10 years.
Yeah. I think he had a trainer.
And he said the trainer would put it in for a couple of races.
Easy
and then he'd
races,
say, oh, the going's good for there, but not, it's good for Scotland and not Exeter. So we'll delete the other one and go to Scotland. Or we'll do Exeter because the
Dave
right
loves
there.
that social side of things, as you say. He's
Absolutely. I get on well with Dave. I haven't spoken to him a lot. He's always busy. He's still got his dye business.
He's still got the dye business.
He said he's cut it right down. He said it's like
Dave dyes, yeah. You just get all the chrysadines.
Concord it is now. Concord dyes.
Isn't it? Just as Concord's come off the ground. Come back on the ground. It's the Concord's risen from the ashes.
He says, it keeps him. He says he deals with them. And
I think he had that strong contact from his...
He said, I've just kept my best customers, and so there's no hassle getting money out of them or anything like that. No bad... no taking on lots of new business, no risk.
Because when he worked,
his pension really.
Because when he used to come into the sometimes he'd be away in the week. So I don't know whether he's a rep, and he was still doing college or a course. And then we're coming up to fishing on the Wye, Austin Clizzard. He told him, he said, "You'll need some," and Barry Brooks, "You'll need some wash scrub iron." Okay. So we start thinking about it. Here's a few stories how to get them. So me and my friends, I was about 13, 14 at the time, up the spinney. I said, if you've seen a wasp nest, come and let me know. So I had a few people come and knock on the door. Mum said, what are people coming to the house for, Philip? Knocking on there saying there's a wasp nest there. Oh, Mum, yeah, we're going to fetch him out. Oh, we'll be very careful. So Pete J's, we'd notified and identified these are proper nests. And the way you get a wasp nest, you go down the canal, down Hedgerow, just as it's getting to, say, 6 o'clock tonight, and just sit down and watch until you see a wasp go by. If it goes by like that, don't worry. If it goes like that, look at him and move till you see him again. So we'll be looking at the skyline, because they go back quick with food. On the way out, they're all empty and looking for something. And Jim Heaps told us this. So me and Pete's got 4 or 5, one at the Lido Swimming Centre, couple up my local spinner, one in the allotment, all in the ground, couple by the river. So we talked to Dave Downs and Jim Heaps and Ian, because Ian said, come and have a word with me dad about bees. So Jim in his wallet, he was a pest control man. So he brings his wallet out and he's got a big afro of bees on his head. And he was such a countryman, you couldn't believe it. He was calmness personified, this Jim Heaps was. Gentleman dress, jacket, bit like Ray Mumford sometimes when he turned up fishing. Little CRU badge, his old working man's club badge. So anyway, he says to Dave, he said, right, you want some chemicals to put around the edge of the hole, put them there, hopefully you can kill enough. Then the next day you go with shovel, you go with fork, you go with black bags and cover. Dig quickly round the edge until you can see the nest, estimate, try and lift it round, go easy. If you have to take a bit more, I can do this quite swiftly because they'll be annoyed now.
Bloody annoyed.
So we thought, right, we'll go wasp nesting. So Dave come home and it was an egg. Cymag, I think it was.
That's it, yeah, Cymag.
It just looked like a chicken eggs, but fluffy. So we down Ivan's because he ain't got nowhere to lock it up or anything like that. So we looked at it and Dave said, right, mess about with this. Got some bottles, squirty top, put the egg away. That's because you only mixed a bit of this. Got ourselves a bottles and off we go. So we goes and douses all these nests. So the next night, me and Pete Jays went to the ones on the canal. And Pete's going, yeah, we'll be alright, Pete. Pete with the smile. He looked like Jason King. Lovely tight curly hair, moustache, handsome 70s boy. Liked his motel. Smart boy. And cool cat down the pally. And his girlfriend, Pat Luck, just looked like Tara King off the Avengers. So he looked like Jason King, you know, with the tight curly hair and the sideboards.
I've seen pictures, I can't remember.
When he was a young man. And then Tara King, the girls were like stars. Robin Grouse's girlfriend, wife, spit for Marilyn Monroe. Linda and her team looked like Dusty Springfield. Brian Envy's wife, she was very pretty. Dave Ross's were a bit older than the others, but they're all pretty, very pretty women. So anyway, we gets back up the canal. We've mobbed them, gone back the next night, and there's just like a cascade of dead wasps. So I didn't see the murder we did, but we need the nest, don't we? So we gets one out, and it's massive. It's good half-size football, man. Bits of mud in everything, black bag, and all of a sudden they're going a bit. The rest of the wasps were all, you got one out of ground?
No, but I'll tell you about a wasp in a minute.
Bleeding brilliant. And anyway, one chase, when we get, let's go, and the wasp will only be that far away chasing you on. Couldn't believe it. So I'm running. Pete said there's wasp. Just keep running. And one got Pete Jay's. Looked like Jimmy Hill. The whole of his jaw went in. I think he had to hospital more. So we got a few of them. I didn't fish on it, but when you see that wasp rub, it'll move fish so far because they know it drops in the river naturally sometimes, don't they?
Yeah, they just get.
And have you seen someone fish on it and catch on it?
No.
Mark.
I've heard about it.
So then we were going to take some down to the Bristol Avon. And I don't know whether you could use that in matches.
Well, they used to ban it here and there and not everywhere, didn't they? It was all sort of... Yorkshire they didn't, and other places they banned it. And someone would use it once and win, and they'd, that's banned.
Someone to catch a load of bleak in a club match. No more sprats. Yeah, they do that. And it was only a short period of time when you get this. And I watched Austin Clizzett one day on the wire, fishing about 6 swan shots with big, like Avon float mark. And they'd catch £34 a dace and not frame. Then matches around the carracks. Because it was all game fish. And they'd want you to bury the fish after. But they'd stop that rule in the end. And they'd let the match fishers, people want just to thin it out a bit. But they're fishing that Y mark. But these chub, I watch them, they're fishing perhaps 12, 14 foot deep. The river's very strong there. Seems stronger than the 7 in some part of the Y, perhaps because of the depth, although it's not as wide. It just, when you get round the carrot, it's back to the barrel.
Well, it's got some flow, yeah.
And he weren't catching no fish for a start. He put 2 like boulders of bait in, which I thought, they went clunk, and then he put 2 soft ones in. So that must have been with some weight in it down. Then he's put 2 normal soft ones. I think because Ivan then always used to get surf on molehill or under rhododendron bush. Because it always fine, it's always chopped. You know, go and fetch and open some of that. And I watched him. 20 minutes later, the float's just gone down. It's out of the water that much, Mark. And there's about 5 swan shot on. And the chub apparently race at the wasp up, and the taste of it must be amazing, and it doesn't move like a maggot, does it? Because that's why you catch them on gozzers, I think. You know, when the gozzer, if you put gozzer in your hand and touch it, it'll keep still, won't it? Where a maggot won't keep still. And I think that was the sensation where you'd catch on a gozzer someday against a normal maggot.
They just hung on to it, didn't they?
You'd press a maggot, it'd go like that, a commercial maggot, but a gozzer, you'd press it and it'd just... And I think it must be the same when it goes in a fish's mouth. Especially when it's fishing hard and you're not quite getting it. And I've seen it put shot maggot on, chuck in. Hard work, you'll get a fish, some quality. Put a gozzer in. 4, 6 ounce bigger. Every time it increased the fish. Like a caster against a maggot some days. So they'd all come in for the little talk on a 1-to-1 with Ivan. And sometimes revealing a little bit more. Bear in mind, they're going from swing tips, trying out the target board, bait indicators, 1 or 2 of them still had on board. No swim feeders about at this time. it was just getting the balance of the ground bait to get the distance by hand. And they could do the welland and the knee with no problem. You get a nice, you're not going to mess many balls up, as long as the wind ain't too bad. And they all could virtually do that. They hadn't even thought of a catapult in 60s. Oh, there's not one on the scene, I don't think. And then Brian Envis would come in. Again, he'd come in lovely, nice, neat kind. I think he had an engineering company.
Yeah, a little partnership.
Yes. Very six, very quiet. Not as loud, but very dry with his laughter. With very close friend of Dave Ross's, I think.
Oh yeah, we went to dinner with the two of them.
Oh, you'd have got it. And Brian's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pointed features. And he would come down and go and do his practice for a couple of days. And then there'd be a couple of floats come in. Oh, it's not quite right. What did he say? What did he say? How shall I do that this week? And they'd completely turn off what they'd caught the fish on at the weekend. They'd perhaps gone out with a swing tip. And I've gone and try this quiver tip. Try this different dropper. Try two worms and a maggot instead of one worm and a maggot. And then he'd get them, right, no bomb stay, we go float fishing. So they'd go and have, and the wagglers, I suppose they're coming on the back of the Zoomer, because they're all top and bottom fishing these rivers at this time, when it was perhaps 60 odd. So you'd have your Zoomer, big balsa in it, and just a straight cane. I'm not sure what cane it would have been in the top of it. You know,
yeah, they were just like 2 mil cane or
yeah.
2.5, 3 mil cane.
And it seemed it's quite a bit of an art to be able to swing it round and cast it out, top and bottom. And say it was, and some of these were 3 and 4 swan shot. There'd be regular 3 swans. So you'd have a swan and a half here, strapped right under there, nothing to halfway of the 14-foot depth. Perhaps sometimes they'd use a swan shot then, but most probably narrow it down to 2 AAs and a BB tight under it, then shirt it down. And so that you'd have to cast it first. It's on some of the drains where the bank's got to be acceptable and the relief channel weren't bad. But they'd flick it out, Mark. And it'd be perhaps be 14 foot deep then. One sweep. Unbelievable. And you'd watch them and you'd think, and I'd have watched someone on the Sunday when I'm 13, 14. And I could fish a waggler, no problem. Fish 8, 10 foot, no trouble. But this top and bottom, because you didn't fish top and bottom down the straits. But on these deeper places, they wanted it for the control. And then all of a sudden, we're downstream when you're in a bit of a mess, aren't you? And I think that's when the waggler come in, you see. And that must have come in late 60, 67, perhaps. I think it'll be around.
Starting to do these body peacocks.
Peacocks, and like the one you showed me, cork bodies. So the Prasolin put them in the bottom. And I would have been perhaps not fishing on the Saturday. I sort of watched 2 matches, Saturday and Sunday, quite often on the Trent on a Saturday. Long Eaton. Ivan used to like going there. Nice matches. Then there'd be these set of students coming Ivan's house with long hair. Looked like they come out of Pink Floyd or the Doors. And it was Steve Voss, Stuart Voss, Stan Peacher. I'm being a bit disrespectful to 3 others' names there. One of them was Alan Dutton. He weren't as clear. And these are all top university kids. But they like fishing fine. They didn't go and catch these big breams and everything. They like the reek, narrow stretches of the saw. They wouldn't like the straits too much because they didn't like mixing with loads of people. Super intelligent the one. So they used to come round Ivan's, and you'd have the likely lads there, and then the sort of peripheral, and the bit jovial, taking the mick of their cleverness, and even to the point they called themselves Gobio gatherers.
Yeah.
And
there's Paul Aldershaw, he was one, wasn't he? He was a doctor, I think. He had a doctorate.
Very clever man.
He was one of them.
He looked 40 when he was 20, Mark.
Yeah.
And he was super intelligent. So They used to kidnap me on a Monday night when I was about 16. Because they used to come down, perhaps just when the shop started, or just before. 2 or 3 of them used to kidnap me. When I used to go on Saturdays and Sundays with Ivan and be in his company, there used to be them on the Monday night. They used to go and fish Barrow upon Soar, country part of the river, very nice, Mark. Barrow
below
Deep.
Leicester, isn't it?
Yeah,
Downstream
in between
Leicester.
there and Loughborough. And this
So
would be
it's got bigger down there, isn't it? Because above Leicester it's tiny.
Yeah, and then it has a bit of tiny and wide, but generally it's getting bigger below the straits. And they used to fish a bit of 12, 14 foot deep, real slow, deep part of the Soar on a big bend through this meadow, and it was called Barrow Deeps, they used to call it. So after a couple of weeks went with him, they come back, you're catching these roach, £1.2, £1.6. And they'd be old shore like this, with bits of straw in his hair, between the reed beds, fishing over the lily pads. And so it was a sedate type of fishing they did, but they were always, and I looked at the tackle, they were talking about 24s and 26s on this Monday night. And I think it's that the bus number or the door number. I'd never seen a 24, Mark. This is now... It's a six. No, I think it might just be really late 60s. Because my other friends that I grew up fishing 5 to 6 year olds, Stuart Hurst, again he was a long haired lad. Amazing angler on canals, Mark. Just like Pete James. Equal standard of Pete James. And what you found, that all the people that worked in the hosiery in Leicester were dealing with potholes, eyes, nylon thread the size of 1.1 line, needles the size of a 14's up or a 10's up, right through to a 22's up. That is their living. Bentley engineers, they used to make the machine, run the machine, sell them to the Leicester people to make socks and all different garments. So their angling club, when they went fishing, these people could use their hands very fine. They were master fishermen. They didn't go open matches. But like the Bentley Engineering Club would have some amazing weights. And there'd be 5 or 6 clubs linked to hosiery firms in Leicester that when you went and watched them fish, well, it was just like they were at work. Because they'd have to handle the yarn and not snag it for the machines and get socks off. Finest control getting that sock to be finished with all the fibres. Then you go on fishing and you can see them. They'd bring adaptations from the factory. This to the introduction. And then Pete Jason, I think he was a fine engineer. And his mind was in Pete Jason's dad was another Bentley man. He was bailiff. Lovely man, Arthur. And he only passed away not long when he came up.
Yes, the other week, wasn't it?
Oh.
A few weeks ago, yeah.
And I used to go to his house and he'd teach me my night school work from a hosiery trade. And he'd tell me all what the teacher was going to tell me before I went to night school. And then he'd blend with me, but it occupied me so much. So they'd all come down and talk their methods. Go back out, fish Wednesday or Thursday. And then you'd perhaps see him Friday night, bait night now. Ivan's without the darts and running off everywhere else, Mark. We'd start running the casters off. Tuesday night. That'd be the run off for all the mess out the brand. There'd hardly be any casters. Clean them up, divide them up, get them in the beds. And we used to get some lovely sized casters, Mark. Used to sink you could put a 16s in a caster. You put 14s in a caster. You know, do you remember the good sized maggots?
Down here, they're rubbish. Someone, once we went to have some casters and we were down Southampton. Bob Drew or something. He says, oh.
Drew?
Yeah.
I remember that one.
And he says, oh, do you want some casters? We said, yeah, you got some casters. And like you say, they were like flipping butterfly chrysalises. And the ones we had were like pinky ones.
Yeah.
Bloody tiny shrug rubbish. I thought, God, the maggots, we never had good bait there.
And I suppose casters were really coming in as a bulky bait late 60s. And Ivan was so comfortable with the caster to the point. I'd only had casters. I'd go to go to the River Cam, the River Ouse, the River Nene. And they used to have a boys junior section, sometimes only 8 in it, 10, 12, sometimes 20. And he'd just give me casters. So I used to sit on these rivers with all these little fish, which you can't really put together with just a caster. Because Ivan had roughly told me, get that, sort it out down the bottom, slowly on the drop, easy to push it down. You'll be busy. And of course, the first hour, there's people catching fish on the maggot and everything.
Little rakes.
And so that'd test me a bit even more.
No, you were saying, you got used to it. Because Pete Maskell was telling me about you last week.
Oh, lovely guy, Peter.
He was saying that you got so used to casters, brought up on casters, that when it started to go to maggots, you asked him to ask who could help you about understanding what these sort of Nottingham anglers and people like that. He said he put you onto someone. I can't remember. He couldn't remember who it was.
Completely upside down, because
they were feeding all over the place with maggots.
When Pete Palmer, he was good. There was quite a few of them.
Because I watched you fish, and I found the thing for it now. In the 77 Gladden Masters, you fished it because you were quite high up on that. You didn't catch a lot.
With Trent or even?
Trent, Muscombe.
3, 4 pound.
Yeah.
Pete Palmer won.
£7, yeah. I think Alan Kevin did well.
Did Kevin second?
He was high up, yeah.
And then the one at the Avon, Kevin won it, Mumford second, I think I was third.
That was about 4 years before that.
Yeah, that's when I sat right between Clive Smith and Ken Giles.
Cool.
I'm telling
That's
you.
a draw you want on the work train, isn't it?
I'm telling you. Well, the other draw I had on the Evesham Haven was Ian Heaps downstream on the bridge, Ken Giles upstream. I was in the Gladden. And you see the Gladden mark, which I suppose it's not a likely land, so we'll leave that for a bit. But as you're gathering now, from that 13 to 15, I'd already won the people's thing. So I was going to a match, and for 3 years, I would have seen every week at least one section winner. Not necessarily the match winner. Wherever I would have settled in the 50, 100 pegs where I'd be. Sometimes it'd be moving, I'd be moving on.
Yeah, if it's 500 pegs, you can't cover it. You've got to be lucky, haven't you, to find
exactly, but there's no need to watch the winner sometimes. It's usually quite comfortable. But what I used to end up watching is a section winner. But in between me sitting behind Ivan, he'd only ever set one rod up. Odd times during the first couple of hours, he'd take a look at the bat and I suppose the progress, I'd set that up, set my bomb rod up. And so it'd only be 13, 14 there, occasionally that. Because then I'd say, what do you want setting up on? So just leave it for a minute. But sometimes a decision will make you want to change after an hour. You don't want to open it, don't want to show his card straight away. Because some people had just put loads of bait in for stop, ruin some pegs. And some of them used to shake a bit when they were near Ivan. I used to notice that. And so I'd
try to do the rod.
And then when they put some bait in there, look at it.
Which swim you're fishing?
It was a beautiful, beautiful time. And these people, Mark, as in all them likely lads, on Sunday, they all went to all that. I've come from like 9 children, secondary modelling school. Mr. Headmaster wanted me to stay on, who was Ivan's deputy headmaster when he was at school, different school then. But I was too much into fishing, man. And there were jobs in the factory. So what I had the pleasure of, all these like Dave Downs, Dave Ross, all very busy in their family and work world, which was a high quality of most of them people. On Sunday, they were completely different people. All that would drip away from them as they got to the bankside. Out would come a different person almost. One that wants to practice something that day, can't wait to get near a reasonable peg, and they're still finding out. They're not going there doing it, saying I've done it. Everyone come back, even the winners, with improvement in it. So I'd be standing there in the aftermath, and a lot of these people would be bumping into Ivan from other cities and towns. And so met 5 or 6 crews of people coming round Ivan's, which I've perhaps only told you 2 or 3 of them now. But then we'd go to Birmingham way, and all of a sudden there'd be Barry Brooks right next to Ivan, as though they'd been together all week. Then Max Winters, and then Ken Giles he was a bit formal, Ken was. But Clive Smith and Barry Brooks, I think they might have both had shops. They were just like Ivan's friend from old days. Now, Barry Brooks knew every lake, every river between Stourbridge and Birmingham, which meant the Avon. I don't know how good Barry was at fishing, but he knew so much information.
He wasn't bad.
He weren't.
And he was in the BAA team, I think. So
he was up there.
He weren't bad to get in there. He wasn't the best, maybe.
But he used to be sitting with Ivan, and there wouldn't be no barriers, there'd be no uncomfortability of different team things. And there'd be perhaps 7 or 8 different Birmingham lads, and the 2 young Downsy boys, they were in awe of them, but I've never known such intense competition for angling than Birmingham. You had all the industrial people and the powerful River Severn. They were a bit heavy-handed. They liked the ledger, they liked the lead, they liked BBs on the hook length. They had to be positive. The music were well loud as well, but when they come to the river, they attacked it because they had the rivers that had allowed you to do it. They'd put 2 pints of hempin on the end of the rod and not cast on that for an hour and a half, Mark.
Yeah.
2 pints! Woof!
I always noticed with the Birmingham, not the top blokes, but a lot of the lesser blokes, they tended to be ever so set in their ideas.
Oh, rigid.
This is the way to do it. And anything else is wrong.
It's Luddite. No, this is the way.
And this is the way you do it, and it has to be this, and very, very precisely done this and this and this. So when people like Ivan turned up and said, I'm going to use grain bait on Evesham. No, that's the kiss of death. That is the fixed idea.
That's the worst thing you could do.
Use it. As Ivan said, I wonder if it'll work. And if it does work, is it going to give me an advantage? If it doesn't, maybe I don't.
Is it going to ruin it?
Is it going to ruin it? But can I get away with trying it? Do I need to practice it? That's that open mind on it, and that's the difference.
And especially because Evesham, because every time we went there, people would be there practicing. It's a very open and popular
I went there
place.
in the mid-80s with a bloke from Oxford. I was staying at Oxford, and I met a bloke in the tackle shop there. I first met him in my life.
Nice,
he said, I've always wanted to fish at Evesham. I says, yeah, I fancy that. What would be me? Yeah, and I said, yeah, all right then. So he comes down to pick me up at about 5 a.m. He says, oh, pegs 9 and 10, they're the pegs. Except he didn't realise that they were the pegs 9 and 10 on Huxley's. Yeah. Right down the bottom of Huxley's.
Oh, yeah.
Not 9 and 10 on the Town water.
Coming down.
So we got onto 9 and 10 on the Town water, which weren't that, they were quite deep, because it gets deeper from peg 1, doesn't it? It gets deeper and deeper. So we fished those. But we just couldn't believe we were there at, oh Christ.
You'll be there.
6:30 or something, 7 o'clock. And we got those pegs. By 8 o'clock on the Town water, there was 57 pegs, 57 anglers. There wasn't a match on. I don't know how we checked that. Huxley's was the same. And then he was keen as hell. We fished hard, we didn't catch a lot. And you got to 4 o'clock, a lot of people had packed up. All right, by 3 o'clock.
Did you go on the swim change then?
Yeah, and at 4 o'clock, other people started to come into these empty pegs to fish the evening as well. I thought, bloody hell, and every chub you caught was all right. Air-lipped and all hooks and marks and scars and up and Iverson and the fins, and I thought, Christ, these fish. And they knew, the chub would come out of the water, it's just, you're using Bayer, aren't you? The number 22.
They know that.
They knew everything.
15 times this week, mate.
Yeah, they were so...
because that would be...
But they were.
I felt a bit of that sometimes. So when we practice him, ease up. We don't really want to know any more results if people's watching. So we have to be careful to push it down. And one day we was on the Bedford Hospital Cup. I don't know whether we won it. It was a lovely day, and I think I had about Well, actually, you ain't supposed to use hemp mark. And I don't know how devious this was, but when I opened my box on the riverbank, there was some hemp in it. And I wanted to know it, and I'm in the bushes. When the match, I just put it all in a ball of ground bait, put it in more. And I don't think it met much difference. It was only one feed of it. So anyway, it was lovely. And I was only a kid at this, 14, 15, something like that. And just out the town at Bedford. And again, it was a lovely environment, lovely people, Thamesford and all of them. I got a lovely peg running off to about 8 foot deep, stick float. Very hot, not motionless, not a lot of wind or anything on the river. And it was real hard fishing. I ended up about 7.5 pound a roach. And it was, I remember there was no wind where I was. And what was breeze, a little downstream. That's what made it a bit difficult. And when you get first that white stuff going across the top, when it's downstream, you get all it was just horrible, almost like the wind's only that far off the river, but it's awkward. So anyway, I pulled it round. I think I won my section as well. So after the match, I always remember Bedford, when I went into after the match and see what had happened, walked over the bridge, and in Bedford's loads of Italian people. And as a Sunday evening we're coming like this, we'd be like 4 or 5 o'clock now, match finish, and we're looking to go home. And many times like this, there was no need to go home, is there? So it's walked over the bridge, Ivan's looked, and it was the town stretch, hadn't been pegged in a match. And there was a lovely island in the water, and it was about like the Straits, a bit wider. We don't know whether we could fish there or not, so shall we have a nap? Pull straight out the kit. Shall we have an hour? What do you think, Mark? Straight out with that. And I've looked at it, and I think Pete might have set up as well. Quite often me, Pete and I would be going home and we'd have another 3-hour one somewhere. So I looked at it, and I just set a waggler up. I'd been fishing on a stick float down there, looked at it, bit of weed here, nice chuck here to that bungalow, just put down. Straight in with ground bait, off of casting ground bait for a couple of, up to about £1.5, a nice 7-8 pound of fish mark. And Ivan said, just like fishing the Strait, that's what learned me. Hold on, that method that I use down our local river, if I adapt it and alter it slightly, bear in mind we were catching carp, odd tench, no chub mark, very few chub down the Strait, rudd, so we're not getting the roach, we're not getting the dace, we're not getting the bleak, so I don't know whether this will work with them, do I? Till I go out of town and see what's going on. And it must have only been 15. And I thought, oh, this is our method on their river. And I'd been listening to all what you just said there, Mark, in the morning at this Bedford match, really excited, not that age, all big men fishing, getting a peg. And they're saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. It's hard, this chub there, bream there. Because there's some nice bream pegs just above Briss, just above Bedford. There's an amazing shoal of bream up to 7-8 pound if they ever go in another section. And it didn't really materialise that day. Some powerful bits on there, but a bit temperamental, Mark. Have I gone on a tangent here? So yeah, so therefore that method could work. The caster, I was quite happy down the Strait because I know I could push by the maggots, the cheese and everything, and I'm going to catch decent fish. And then Canal felt comfortable with it. Bedford Hospital Cup. One day we're coming back from Dimmock's Cove and we go over the middle level. There's 2 drains. I'm not sure the names of them. With all the tributaries. And we're driving over, Pete, Ivan and myself. And again it's 5, perhaps 4 o'clock by the time the match is finished, cries are given coming home. And we drove over here. And Ivan says, oh, that looks nice. Oh, God, all the kits come out. And I remember this day, I've just jumped over the fence, gone left. Looked up. Pete and Ivan had gone the other side of the bridge. And the car's this side of the bridge. So I can't work it out. But I got my kit, so I'd never seen this bit of water, Mark. And it would drain. Perhaps not as quiet as far as that bungalow over there. And it looked nice. So I thought, well, put waggler, plumb the middle, put a bit of stuff in. And Pete J says, can't believe how quick he's catching fish, can you? At about 14 pound, about 2.5 hours. Lovely hybrid pound. And then that's what I noticed, it started running off. I didn't realise it affected with the Denver sluice and everything. So them days, that would have, having been gone and watched some sort of method. Some lovely anglers have not fishing this day anymore. And then with all that fresh in your head, with all them different combinations I'd seen, I'd get a chance to express it then. I thought, hold on, our fishing stands up, it stands up, where are we going? Then as I've watched the Kevins, Bennies, Billy Lane, Enser, Bleaky Deed, and even before I've got into fishing a match every week, I could see their tackle. It didn't matter all the tackle round them. Not that important at times. It clog your head up. But when you just seen them with the one particular method they were doing, and like I say, I might see 9 different methods a day as I walk that bank, and justifiably their interpretation of getting the best out of that peg. Obviously, if you change 1 or 2, it might have changed it. But I'd see one day, on the knee, and he's strep pegging, tapping twice this dude. He's fishing about 11 foot deep in 8 foot of water. 2 maggots. Oh, he's got both rod rests either end on. Ain't on his knee, no. Them little rod rests, you know, with the big rubber on.
Yeah.
Porcupine, slinging it past and letting it strep peg so it comes round there and settles, so you got the bank of the river, like you said, 2 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot. You imagine it going out. So he's chucked it at about 45, perhaps a bit more acute that way. 3 foot over depth, with a tightish line onto his float, with a decent bit of float out, because he ain't going to get all the weight. In actual fact, it's the drag of the line that settles the float in the end. And I walked, because I'd watched him, and he's got one of these, got a real old-fashioned bamboo landing net. Brass ferrules, more. And I'm watching him as they're coming out. It might have been a glass rod, about 2.5 pound. And he weren't in no rush to get us in his keep. He was an old boy in an open match. So I just sat behind him. And this float mark, and all them with the waggler next to him, and the little bombs. By the time he chucked it at that angle, put his bait there, he could use this in any river he went. The 3 foot over depth allowed it I just could see it under the water mark as it's in the slope, and his float would just go like that. The fish would just get it and move back. It would know this, it would just go like that as the float would drastically over depth, almost sink. Must have had, I think I watched him catch 6 bream mark, a couple of brown ones, you know, the dark one. It was about 30 odd pound of fish. Won the match. No, he didn't. It was second. So on the Monday or the Tuesday, I'd go down to meet my friends, my school friends, Stuart Hurst and Steve Hurst. And that was my young group that used to kidnap, and a guy called Cheyenne, Mr. Pete Sutton's dad, bang opposite my junior school. He'd be taking his fish down with 4 young lads and some older boys, and he was called Cheyenne, he was. So once you'd been to see these on the Saturday and had them hours with Ivan close by, I could go back and see how they were fishing, Mark. And I could choose to go to the canal, the river, the lake, and go and do exactly the same, knowing that I'm going to go on that river one day and be able to do that. Just getting the balance of the kit. Didn't matter if you didn't catch too many fish, because I know that off rivers didn't have the head of fishing, that didn't have bleak, didn't have days. Had the rudd, so we didn't have chub, Mark. You had the chub in the small stream, but you couldn't have the chub in a wider river where the fishing in a stream for chub's dead easy. You just got to be quiet and careful. Be a bit of a poacher. You always can get some out. You know, if you take your time downstream, you're going to take some out them little eddies and that. But that don't get you ready for a more stronger, equal river. Because them streams are all unequal, aren't they? Anyone can win on smaller rivers given the packs. So the information I had in me at 15, it's explosive, Mark. It was virtually any bit of water I could look at, and I could bring out dead quick a good angler doing a real calm bit of angling in a peg that I perhaps wouldn't have not seen, not come across, and the different styles of fishing. As I say, there was so many of them going on. So by the time I'd been Saturday and Sunday watching this, I should have imagined my head were bursting with lovely methods to go out and do more. And then therefore I'd be home Monday night, down there with the lads on a Monday night. Before the next Saturday, I definitely would have gone and fished a winning style that I'd seen in an open match on a near a bit as water as I could get. So if I needed to throw that float out there, I could. And I didn't get any stress, never, about float fishing. Never ever got uncomfortable, Mark. Now it come to the ledgering. And as I says, these things, there's the Dave and Ivan at their game. They'd have their friends feeding them a bit. Ivan had a multitude. Like these Gobio gatherers, Ivan liked some of their stuff. Because he didn't mind taking anything from £5 upwards.
Because they'd have ideas, wouldn't it? Even if they weren't good enough to, but they were clever blokes.
You just can't help. One day I'm coming home, been to Newark Dyke, and I'm in the car with Stampede. It's midwinter, winter league. And he was doing some studying at university. And he spoke all about Toulouse-Lautrec from when we got in the car till he dropped me off. And quite often he used to talk about something. And he wasn't over bogging me because he was studying and going for these exams and going, anything he could say, he'd write down, stand up. He can't wait to put it down in words. And he was the link between the Gobio gatherers being comfortable with him, because Paul Oldshaw, they were very eccentric recluses, these people, but they like to be in match fishing, and when they got a result, they used to drink the bitter, but I've got a hunch they're all on acid. Because they were
a bit hippie.
Well, they were all students, I didn't realise, Mark. Same as when the London...
They were a bit of a flash in the pan, weren't they? They were around, and then you never heard of them again later.
Checks in our hotel, and then we went to all these waters around here with Mr. Taylor, where he told us to go. So every one of them was a running peg, waggler, stick float. Didn't pick up, just float fishing. Couldn't see past it with the watermark. And then on the Wednesday, we went to a match to Bristol on the Avon, full practice, because we'd been down to several before this. So this would have been July, just turning August. And I drawn next to Ivan. Ivan had got the wash scrub. Remember when we were speaking of wash scrub, Mark? So he's brought some wash scrub. He says, I'm trying this today, and I'm next peg to him. All the people to draw next to him are. So I'm 16 or 17. And it wasn't too wide, lily pads, dark looking, no fish rising, nice depth. I ain't moved off and pegged. Ivan's gone to walk about, and Ivan didn't weigh in. The match fact, he only fished for about 2 hours. And I think I kept fishing and fishing. I said, shall I weigh in? He said, of course you weigh in. I don't know why I said it, Mark, because the practice doing that. Because he didn't weigh in. I don't know why I said, of course you should weigh in. And I think I finished all right in my section, but that was just, because I think I'd drawn next to Ivan. But you remember when I told you about the Gladium on there? I didn't like that day, Mark. Because it was like, I had to do the maggot, the one at the Evesham. And so we fished that, back down to Bournemouth, Mark. And my friend Martin Britton says to me, after the holiday, he says, you'll win this national film. And 2 people said it to me. A man from Ivan Street round the corner said to my dad, as soon as Phil fishes in his national, I'm going to pay his pools, he says. He says, he'll win it. This is before he even been to the River Mark. And that holiday ended up absolute. I couldn't have had a better holiday. The other one was the boating holiday I had, which was enjoyable. So where were we with the boys? So the other section of people used to come down Ivans were a mixture of club anglers and pleasure anglers, Mark. And Ivan would give them the same time. So there'd be no difference between Dave Ross. Odd ones, he'd never push any weight from his house. No. Don't matter what they bring to the house. And some of them couldn't really catch a lot of fish anyway. But there'd be something in what they said. Or Ivan would tell them something. And you'd bump into that person again, which you did many times. And some of them would have verbally spoke to Ivan. Some of them quite often spent some time on the bank And every one of them each one of them people, that angling that bit never left them, Mark. The enjoyment of being with Ivan, the passing on of knowledge, and then if you pick your kit up, if you come by and you sat next to you or he advised you, and people's look on angling would change from a short period in Ivan's company to ever looking at a river in that same way. And then when they come back and they've had a good day, Mark, it was like Ivan knew they'd have a good day before they went away. Because there's no one that won't want Ivan as a brother. There's no one that won't want him part of his family. And he was so devoted to sport and it was sharing with people as well, Mark, as much as the winning and that. So I think Ivan, the winning would come after he finished. His interpretation of angling, because I think you've sat behind him and it's part of it. Even just the angling of not catching a great deal of fish was something you didn't see very often, Mark. Not many anglers you can sit behind and feel that comfort, and you've sat behind some good anglers, haven't you?
All of them.
Yeah, and there is a complete difference, isn't there, Mark? It's all individual in the way, but there's always something a little different about it.
And there was a bloke in about 30 years ago in our Winter League team. We were struggling. We were the rabble. We never have practices or teamwork. We just used to turn up and fish.
Do your best.
But in our team, you could go out to win it. There was no scratching about. Well, we would scratch because we expected people to try, but there was no recriminations. Christchurch and that were ever such keen.
So some of them are very serious.
Too serious, but we were more of a. Anyway, this July, I went up the Upper Stour early one Saturday morning, and there was a bloke fishing there. And I didn't know him, and I knew all the local match anglers. And I got chatting to him, and he said, I come from Kent. He said, I've moved to Ringwood. And he said, I want to fish for a team, but Ringwood are a load of rubbish, which they were just shower, they were. I said, well, we're looking for someone to fish for our team, and he told me what he'd fish for. He'd fish Winter Leagues and Nationals and this, that and the other. Mike Kirby, that's what his name was.
Did he join you?
Yeah, I said to my mate was team captain, I think. It would have been 84. The following year, I think I was team captain, but he was team captain. He said, you sure? I said, yeah, I watched him fish. He was catching, he knows what he can handle it, he's all right. First match, he turns up. He does an absolute crap peg. He weighs in 2 ounces, comes about 9th in his section. My mate says, you sure he's any good? I said, it's just a draw. The next match, it turns out he gets 3 ounces. He comes about 9th in his section out of 10, He says he's got one more chance. I said, look, he is good. He never came out the top 4 the last 4 matches. Overall, he was either first or second in his section. I said, just luck of the draw and what he was getting. Once he had some fish to go for.
Quite ironic, isn't it?
And then
when you go and join the club, you go back.
He moved to... because he was a building society branch manager.
Okay.
They moved him from Kent, where he was, to Fordingbridge. And then they moved him again to Peterborough. And then he was fishing for Peterborough after that. I remember seeing him winning opens on the knee. And all that.
What was his name?
Mike Kirby. This was in the late 80s. Early 90s, he was still around. I expect he's retired long out of it. But he was a good angler. But my mate, are you sure he's any good? I said, geez, he's all right.
Ray Elkington were a boy that it used to be hosiery manufacturer. He come after the likely lads, but...
Well, this is one of the funny things that John's told me. He said, if you go around Leicester and talk to anglers there, they're all likely lads, he says. And he says they're not, and he gets really niggled about it. He says, Ivan taught me everything I knew, which is probably partly true. They would have learned from him, all of them. But I said, in my book...
John gets a bit possessive, doesn't he?
Yeah, I said, look, I've gone to what Ivan defined as his likely lads. I said, I've got the A team, and I've got the B team, and I've got Ivan, and that is it. And I got a few stories from people who were close to Ivan, like Stan Peacher, and
Did you get some good one off Stevie Warner?
not much out of him. No, one little story about him being in Ireland, and Steve Warner was on a festival and he drew an absolute crap peg, and Ivan said, "Fish for perch, just go on a bomb with worm for perch, because you'll just catch £8 or £10 a perch, and it'll give you something to do, because it's going to be one with bream and all the rest of it." So Steve goes to this peg and he chucks out and he gets a perch and another perch and another perch. And after about 5 perch, he gets a bream and then another one, another one, another one. And he wins it. He got £72. It's in the book, like, you know. And later on, he sees Ivan and he says, "Thanks, Ivan, I fished just like you said, a bomb and a worm, no ground bait, nothing. And I weighed in £72. And Ivan says, £72 a perch?" And he goes, yeah, £72 a perch. Oh, right, then the bream came in and I didn't put any ground bait in, and that's why they were there.
What would it been like? Put some stuff in, good old Steve.
Yeah, he didn't mind, you know.
Because him and
He's a nice lad. He obviously, you know him all right, I'm sure. Because it was him that put me in touch with you.
Yeah,
so he obviously knew where to track you down.
Lovely guy, Mark. Lovely guy. And he come along with Stuart, the good footballers. I suppose there were the new ones coming through.
He's the pretty boy, wasn't he, when he was young?
Yo, Stevie, yeah.
I got a picture of the 78. It's late. The Angling Times put the likely lads. It's 1978, and there's Dave Downs, Howard, and Ivan, and that's it out of about 20 of them. And there's Sid Major, there's Tom Bedder, Jim Todd, David Hall, Brian Holmes,
Brian Bomber,
Edgar
Castledine,
Edgar, yeah.
No.
But they're
Jim
not
Todd.
hardly any likely lads. They're people who fished with Leicester later and all around. But
And when we went to Ireland,
Jim Todd's apparently still alive, I think.
good, big Jim. Because the boy he were late getting to the match at the National, and Pete Osborne with first reserve, I think.
Which one was this?
This was the Bristol Avon National. Or would it have been the Witham the year after? Anyway, he's just about to get on the coach and Jim turned up anyway. So Jim fished. It might have been the Witham one. Pete were getting nervous.
Because it was only just down the road from him. He lived at Sleaford.
Exactly, so I'm trying to think whether it was the Bristol one and not that one, but Bristol shouldn't have been Bristol because we stayed overnight.
Yeah.
It was so far to go.
Whereas Sleaford, you just get up and go.
He was a gentle giant, Tim.
I must have watched him fish. I watched everyone fish, pretty much. I think the only person I saw but didn't see fish was Benny.
See, he heaps fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the Birmingham lads. And good anglers, weren't they, Mark? A good section of anglers when you look from each place.
Well, Mark Downs this weekend, who was a youngster when you started.
That's right.
There, you know, and he's not that much older than you, I don't think. He's just won the Veterans World Championship this weekend.
Has he?
There's a Veterans World Championship, and England won.
Yeah.
With Cleggy managing it, and Mark Downs was.
Was it in England or abroad?
Abroad somewhere, I think. I don't know. I'm not one I'll get crack on. Because I've spoken to Dick Clegg about Ivan and
when he went Barnsley
and well, more about why Dick didn't pick Ivan for the England team. It's all right. It was just one of those things. Dick wanted the right anglers for the right venue. So in '84, when he took over, he didn't think Ivan was quite right for that venue. And then the following year, when Ivan was right, but England had won the year before, or almost won.
What year is this, Mark?
84 into 85. So Ivan's getting on for 40, which in those days was old, wasn't it? It's a massive 40, you know. He thought, well, Ivan's good enough for the team. How can I drop someone from last year where they
for a winning team
almost won? I think they lost on weight. They were equal on points, lost on weight, you know. So
he didn't get in then?
He didn't get in then, and he never got in again. But he said he would have done all right, and they would have won it. They won it in '85, and he said he would have been good enough and would have done the job, for the team. It was just one of those things. He just sort of, and of course, Dick was Barnsley biased anyway, so he had like Pickering and Dennis White.
Exactly, and when Ivan went up there to fish for him, he didn't want to do that. That's when Leicester had shook him about. Remember when he went to? I found it quite bizarre. And I went fishing at the time. But
I think the likely lads had vanished by then, hadn't they? By 1980, really.
I think the
ones that were round him had gone completely, pretty much.
What, as in not fishing?
Yeah, they weren't fishing. And John Essex had packed up match fishing. You were probably packed up. Howard had gone to Coventry, was still match fishing a bit, but not with less. Not in
the
Leicester.
two Daves.
Roy was more into the business. Dave Rossi had sort of still match fishing, but had given up with Leicester. Wasn't fed up. Dave Downs had packed up. Robin had gone to Nottingham.
So I suppose we left him a bit isolated then, and then with
sort of on his own, and he wanted to be with good anglers around him.
And I think a lot of it is the shot was the worst move could have happened. So he didn't want it wanted a company, Ivan. You're part of this brand. Didn't need to do that side of it. So that was it didn't help the fishing thing as much as you'd perhaps think it, because it robbed him of time in one way, and I don't know how successful the shot was, but it didn't seem to equal success. I don't think it was that
special.
I don't think it was, not at all, Mark. Not at all.
Because Chris Mark said he's got the rod you used to win the national.
Yeah, I give it to you.
Do you know what it is?
Golden Jubilee.
It's a Golden Jubilee, 13 foot, is it?
Lovely rod.
I did wonder. I could see pictures of it, you see, and I'm thinking, I don't think the Persuader was out then.
No.
It was nearly, it was
It
close.
was in the, and yeah, the tackle that used to come round, come in all shapes and sizes. Roy used to come down with legend relating equipment. He was alright with the target boards, the swing tip.
He was in the Angler's Mail with a target board, so I've designed this target board and all the rest of it, and quite a lot about quiver tips and the rings on them.
Yeah.
But not so much the floats, was it? There's nothing from
He done one.
float.
He done one stick float and he put a fin on it like that. Like a rudder. You used to have some where they were cornered for. You seen them? Slight corner on them. Useless. I remember this float.
They seem good ideas, don't they? But they don't work.
I remember this float coming down. Roy brought it down. Not painted, not nothing. So he's got a bit of stick float and a beer balsa glued on there with a pin through it. You know, told it to painted it up. Look right nice. And so you put it on your line. It's like a nice stick float with a cheek on the side of it. And we could never get. So what day Roy used this when it raw? I don't know. She's glazed. I didn't get past the plug, but you chuck it in, Mike. Got a nice steady stream of water going the same way. So whether it was they pulled under the bank to catch some fish, but that didn't stay there very long.
I tried it with an Avon float last year.
With rudder?
Well, so it was like that shape.
Okay.
Sort of a teardrop shape, you know.
And what's at the top, Mark?
Well, this is the cross section.
Yeah.
So it's a croquois tip.
Yeah, got you.
And then the body, instead of being perfectly round, is more of
oval.
Oval with a like you say, back to a point. But the bloody thing in the water, you can hold it back, but it sort of did this. They don't go stable. When they're perfectly round, you can make them, they just go down right, whatever you want to do. They look great, the idea is brilliant, it don't work.
You end up laughing at them, because like, you know what you want to do. You ease it up and it just goes left or just goes right, because as soon as you ease it up, that rudder's got to move. And right.
Yeah, well, they do that. But it's like,
I think you got one on before you got one on.
You think, why are they jumping around? But you put a perfectly round one on there and they do what you want.
The quiver tips then, they come down the different lengths, and you got to go in the end of, chop the swing tip off it, where they used to have rubber and all sorts. And he made the adapters for the top, Roy did. so it went in it comfortable. Then he did make 2 or 3 lettering rods. I forget what.
John Essex said he had one off Roy, I think. He said he had one. He come third in the Nationals.
He had some nice. He did. He understood the bomb fishing.
You think? I don't think Ivan was like that, because he didn't have like the best mate in that way, did he?
He belonged to us all, Mark.
Yeah.
Belonged to us all.
Yeah. He
I couldn't
like
pick
that.
out a best mate.
No, there were people he sort of liked, obviously, but it wasn't like because he travelled with all sorts of different people,
Exactly,
didn't he?
there was always
During
someone.
Culver, there was someone he travelled with. He travelled with Howard till Howard frightened him.
Did he fall asleep?
No, I think Howard went round a corner on 1.5 wheels.
Oh, Howard frightened Ivan. Yes, Howard used to like going a bit fast.
There's Ivan's
That's enough.
the wall coming out like shit.
Oh.
It's alright, we missed it.
Because Ivan didn't drive fast. We're going on the motorway one day. Me, Pete Osborne and Ivan were going down to Raysbury. I don't think they told you this one, when the car span round.
Yeah, I think you said about spinning round.
We were looking up the motorway with all the cars coming down to us. 360 degrees. Ends up in the hard shoulder facing the right way. And Roy and them in the other car just looked like that as we went by. Couldn't believe it.
Was this Ivan had fallen asleep?
No, this was ice.
Oh, yeah.
We come into Luton and there's a bit of it on the M1. Just on the M1 middle lane, not overtaking nothing more. And it just completely